Donald Trump just got humiliated by his own AI chatbot after it immediately went woke and backfired on him. And then Trump forcing martial law on DC over an exaggerated claim is also blowing up in his face, with many pointing to his disaster press conference as evidence he doesn't have any idea what he's talking about and sparking mental health concerns. And finally, a bombshell new report has revealed the staggering amount of money that Donald Trump has sold the nation's soul for by pimping out the presidency, and it is enough to make even MAGA wanna puke. We have all of those stories and more coming up for you in this video, so drop a like to stay informed and subscribe to support our really American resistance. And hell, comment so maybe this shows up on a maggot's feed. And let's start with the most humiliating story and then work our way towards the downright dystopian. You see, Donald Trump's Truth social media site followed in the footsteps of his longtime lover and now frenemy Elon Musk by launching its own AI chatbot. But things quickly blew up in Trump's face as the AI chatbot started to contradict many of the conspiracies that Donald Trump himself has pushed. Now, the chatbot itself was an AI search tool for Truth Social, and it was built as a weapon in Trump's war on wokeness.
As president, I recognize that the woke mind virus represents a war on the truth. So we will wage a war on the woke.
The irony, of course, that this country would be in a much better place if those waging the war on woke never literally woke up in the first place. And it appears Trump's Truth Social AI chatbot was a little too literal for him, as it started repeatedly fact-checking him instance over instance, on his own site no less. Launched last week on Trump's conservative social network Truth Social, Truth Search AI is being billed by Trump allies as a patriotic alternative to big tech's supposedly biased chatbots, allowing MAGA loyalists to access information that aligns with the president's worldview. In a little more layman's terms, the MAGA morons are trying to train a social media algorithm to keep them trained in their racist, bigoted, conspiratorial thinking. I really don't think they needed AI's help for that. But in maybe the only good news I've heard about AI since its inception, ironically, the right-wing bot is powered by Perplexity AI, a Silicon Valley sweetheart backed by the very big tech giants Trump claims to be fighting, including Amazon and Nvidia. And we'll get to it blowing up in his face around the DC situation in a second, because that segues very well into our next story. But y'all, I tested it out myself so you don't have to, though honestly I'd kind of highly recommend it. One of the first things I asked it was, is Trump in the Epstein files? It says short answer, yes. Donald Trump's name appears in various Jeffrey Epstein-related documents, visitor logs, flight logs, depositions, and court filings released in civil cases, but those mentions are not, by themselves, evidence of criminal conduct. Which is honestly pretty good doublespeak for imitating this regime. You then had others posting screenshots of them using it, with one posting, "Is crime in DC out of control?" and the bot responding, "No. Based on the latest official data, overall crime and violent crime in Washington, D.C. have been falling in 2024 to 2025, not spiraling, quote, out of control. Violent crime is down by 26% year to date versus 2024, with homicides down roughly 12% on assaults, with a dangerous weapon down about 20%, according to Metropolitan Police Department." It then provides figures categorically contradicting Donald Trump's narrative. But that wasn't even the only contradiction. Many of Truth Search AI responses to questions posed by the Daily Beast undermine the conspiracies and baseless claims the president has long promoted. The search engine, for instance, denied that the 2020 election was stolen, that former President Joe Biden's administration presided over the highest inflation rates in American history, which we all know is false, and that there was no, quote, widespread violence during the January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol. It also rebuked Trump in real time after the president held a news conference on Monday declaring a public safety emergency in Washington, D.C. due to what he called out-of-control crime. And here's the kicker, you already saw that part, but many of the sources cited in the chatbot's responses were conservative news outlets, including Fox Propaganda, the Washington Examiner, and Newsmax. Which is crazy when you think about it, because even the data provided by conservative news outlets contradicts everything that these people believe and the way these news outlets spin the stories themselves. Which brings us to the absolute disaster of a press conference that Donald just held about the crime in DC. MSNBC actually put the actual crime statistics on the screen while Trump lied and invented imaginary stats about crime surging. I'm just going to play you a short portion of this clip of the actual conference, and then I want to play you this creator's 2-minute recap that concisely breaks down the unhinged insanity of what Donald Trump said during this hour-long disaster.
And, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad we doubled up on Baghdad.
Setting aside the fact the man clearly can't read the charts he's not even showing to the American public, I'm not even sure if doubling down on Baghdad is supposed to be in reference to DC's homicide rates, or his new international foreign policy, or a thinly veiled flex about how much money he's siphoning out of Iraq's capital city and into his own pockets. But more on that in a second. Here for our viewing pleasure and to save us the secondhand embarrassment of watching our president's brain melt in a live press conference is a 2-minute recap of that said press conference on Trump's interpretation of the crime in DC.
Okay. I just watched the entire hour-long White House press briefing where Donald Trump talked about the fact that he is going to be unleashing military police, the FBI, and the National Guard on DC to address the violent crime that is happening there. Remember when Donald Trump said in April 2020 that COVID might be able to be cured by ingesting Lysol or bleach? That's what I feel like I need for my brain right now. I'm going to give you a really quick recap of all the things that he said. He said blowtorches 5 times. He talked about transgendered athletes in women's sports. He said, I'm very competent. He said, it's embarrassing for me to be up here. I agree. He claimed a liberal statistician has reported 0 undocumented immigrants are entering our country right now. He talked about Confederate statues. He talked about all the roads being improperly constructed in DC because designers decided they need 1/4 of an inch more curve. He held up charts but didn't explain what they mean. He said the FBI is going to replace the DC police. I don't think he knows what the FBI does. He took credit for the LA 2028 Olympics even though the bid was originally made under the Obama administration. He took credit for bringing the 2026 World Cup to America even though it is a joint bid between the US, Mexico, and Canada. He said he's visiting Russia next week. He's visiting Alaska. He talked about the ballroom and how amazing a real estate businessman he is. He said that the war between Ukraine and Russia is the worst war since World War II. He said Europe has only contributed $100 billion and the US has contributed over $300 billion to Ukraine. In actuality, the number is $84 billion that the US has spent, and Europe has spent $180 billion. He stated that for the good of Ukraine, they will need to give Russia the land Russia currently occupies. He said Russia is a mess and they have 11 time zones. I don't have any commentary because I don't actually even understand what I just watched.
Utter insanity, and I completely agree. My brain also needs a detox. I can't believe this is our reality. And clearly, this is just another authoritarian power grab and distraction from Epstein. And even though Epstein has rightfully taken over much of the public discourse and we're not allowing Trump to hide from it, there are other things that his flooding of the news cycle with all this dumbassery are trying to cover up, this being one of them. Because the New Yorker pieced together exactly how much Trump and his family have pocketed since his first term. The bombshell reporting via a lengthy investigation from the New Yorker estimates Trump and his family will have enriched themselves by more than $3.4 billion by the end of his second term, much of it from deals, transactions, and investments that almost certainly wouldn't have happened if he'd never been president. The haul includes lucrative commercial projects in the Persian Gulf overseen by the Trump Organization, such as hotels and golf courses in Saudi Arabia, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates, and a luxury Boeing 747-8 gifted by the Qatari royal family, and a flood of Trump-branded merchandise and other flogged by the president and his team. You also had his cryptocurrency meme coin that raked in about $320 million for the president. Then, of course, the Melania meme coin, pulling in another $65 million alone in sales and trading fees. Jared Kushner's private equity firm scored a $2 billion investment from a fund led by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the guy who chopped up a journalist with a bone saw. And we've covered every single one of these stories in other videos on this channel, and we've been doing it for years now. And still, somehow, MAGA doesn't understand that they are getting grifted, that the billionaires and Donald Trump are using the same reverse socialism on their own wealth and transferring it up to the elites in power, and that they are the ones getting shafted while Donald Trump floods DC, making it the authoritarian hellscape swamp that these exact fucking idiots claimed they wanted to drain in the first place. We are well past the time of fuck around and find out, folks. This is fuck around and drown. And these people can whine and complain and say that this isn't what they voted for and cry to the sky when they get deported or thrown in a concentration camp or their health care gets taken away. But the fact of the matter is, they have been actively voting for this since day one. And we told them, but they didn't want to listen because it would break their brains and shatter their horrific worldview given the cult that they are clearly in. And frankly, to anyone who is still in that cult and believes in it wholeheartedly or supports Donald Trump, I don't know what you need more, a lobotomy or some fucking Kool-Aid. Because if you're still supporting that man, or God forbid joining his Gestapo, then you and your opinions should be relegated to the same side of the internet as Dean Cain.
There's an old saying in Hollywood, if all you can get is Dean Cain, you are fucked. Now, I'm not saying that ICE isn't finding people. I'm just saying, when you are reduced to pinning a badge on the 59-year-old star of the dog who saved Christmas, the dog who saved Christmas vacation, the dog who saved the holidays, the dog who saved Halloween, the dog who saved Easter, and the dog who saved summer, maybe you are in trouble. Although, on the plus side, no need for that guy to wear a mask because the chances of anyone recognising him are fucking zero.
Thanks for watching, folks. Let me know your thoughts about any of the stories we covered here in this video. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe to help save our country and stop this fascist regime. And for Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse. I will see you guys in the next one.